Hi everybody, and welcome to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. In this video, I've got a really interesting story for you from the subreddit Relationship Advice, with a lot of context and an update. And then we move on to a Today I F'd Up. So if you want to go around and navigate through the different parts of the video, you can always use the timestamps right below it. Now let's get started with that first story. This post is from the subreddit Relationship Advice, and it's by user ThrowArrayHelp. I, 29 male, found out my brother's wife's son is mine. Not in the way you think, but I still need advice. Gonna say that there was absolutely no cheating involved at all. What happened was before my brother, 27 male, and his wife, 28 female, met. My brother and I are half siblings, by the way. We have the same mom, just different dads, so obviously our last names are different. First did community college after high school graduation. In my second year, I met Allie, brother's wife. She was the roommate of one of my friend's girlfriend, so we met a couple of times. We hooked up at her place once and kept it going for a few months. It wasn't anything serious, just a short fling. Then I basically dropped off the face of the earth for a while when my dad passed away. Literally, I took off and went full-on drifter, having an existential crisis for a while. No contact with anyone when I dropped from my classes. For some years after that, my brother and me didn't have much contact except birthdays and stuff while I got my life together. We didn't have much before, but this was even less. Found out he got married a couple of years ago. With COVID last year, we started trying to have better contact and be in each other's lives. That involved meeting his wife, and I find out it's Allie. They became friends after he went to the same community college I did, and that's where they got to know each other. Allie found out I was his brother only a few months ago after he showed her a recent picture of me when we were first communicating, but she waited on telling him because she needed to talk to me first. She was trying to find me for months after I left, asking friends around because she found out she was pregnant and I was the father. She showed me pictures of my son, and just that she tried hard to tell me because I had a right to know. But since I was gone, she couldn't find any way to reach out. It made me feel some kind of way looking at him, but I wanted a paternity test just to be completely sure he's actually mine. Allie was completely cool about that. She understood why, since it was a long time ago and we were both dumb college kids. Well, we did the test and I'm the father. I have got a kid I didn't know about because I left his pregnant 19-year-old mom to take care of him on her own. Man, and then my brother doesn't even know about this. I'm not sure how I would react, honestly. This situation is completely effed. I don't even know what to tell him or how to prepare for how he'll react. She thinks we should tell him together and get the whole truth out. Allie's scared to tell him too. My son was 4 when they met, but she never told my brother much about who the father was. I'm scared about losing my brother, scared that I'm a father and have a son. I don't know how it'll work becoming involved in my son's life because I definitely plan to, and how that would affect their marriage. Is there really any good way to talk to my brother about it? At least in a way where it doesn't hurt our relationship too bad or their marriage? Wow, OP, first of all, this is a very weird situation. Of course it is, so it's difficult to deal with. But the first thing I'm gonna say is that while reading your post, one of the things that popped into my head was Allie should have told your brother right away, from the start, as soon as she saw your picture and knew who you were. But that didn't happen. So to address your question about how to tell your brother, I think it should still just be Allie. You shouldn't even be in the same room when that happens. That is something they need to discuss as a couple. Now, regardless of how that conversation goes and how your brother takes it, the person I'm most worried about in this situation is that boy. You guys know me. I'm always going to advocate for what is best for the child in any given situation. But in this case, I'm a little bit stumped. I'm not sure if this child finding out that you are the father right now would be the best thing. Based on the ages that you give us and the timeline, I'm going to assume that your son is between 8 or 9 years old, which means that your brother has been in his life between 4 or 5 years as the paternal figure. I would think that he's the dad and you're the bio dad. I also don't know what your son knows about you, or his father, without a name of course. But I'd say that before you start making all of these bonding plans with who is your son, I would talk to your brother and Ali to see what the best way forward would be. And what about you guys? What do you think? What kind of advice would you give OP? Or what would you do in his situation? Let me know in the comment section, and now let's move on to the community comments to see what they had to say. Pinebox Waiting says, you guys need to tell your brother immediately. No one did anything wrong until Ali figured out that you were her husband's brother. You really need to tell him when the paternity test came back. Now, every day you wait is another day he's being lied to. You have no way of knowing how he'll react, and you can't control that anyway. Just tell him already. And OP responds, we plan to sometime tomorrow. I'm just very nervous about it. I know we didn't do anything wrong, but I know it's still something that would permanently affect our lives, especially his marriage. The last thing I wanted was to throw a huge curveball into his life after trying to rebuild our relationship. Even if it is a major curveball for me too, finding out I'm a father. Punk Rock Cockblock says, you'll need to bite the bullet and have the conversation immediately. Nobody is at fault here. Ali couldn't find you. You didn't know you had a kid. Your brother didn't know he married your old fling. It's crazy, random happenstance. But waiting to put everything out there is going to make things much, much worse to deal with. One Thread Killer 1 says, I don't think you should be involved in the discussion, to be honest. I can understand Ali being nervous, but this is a couple issue. She should be talking with her husband, not you. The longer she waits, the more it might feel like a conspiracy whenever he finds out. In your position, I'd tell her you're available to answer any of your brother's questions, but the initial conversation and reaction need to be a private matter between the partners in marriage, in my opinion. And OP responds, he's her husband, yeah, but he's also my brother, and the situation directly involves me, so that's something we have to talk about with him. Okay, well, the community definitely thinks that nobody's at fault here, which I agree with, and that they need to tell the brother as soon as possible. Now, that last commenter said everything I said, but in a much better way. Now, let's move on to a little bit of context that I was able to extract from the comment section before we move on with the update. I get it's a lot, so I'm hoping my brother can get past it with some time. Hell, it's a lot even for me. Once we get this talk over with, Ali said we should probably go to court to get something established. I know I owe years of child support and I want to pay it back for not being there to help her. Custody? No. Obviously, I'd need to build up something with him, and that could take years. Or none at all if my son doesn't want that or is uncomfortable. I want my son to know his father, so my involvement would be as that. Slowly, of course, for the kid's sake. I never insisted that I wanted my son to meet me. Ali specifically told me my son has wanted to know his dad, something I want too, and he's asked her over the years. The whole reason she's been trying to find me is because she wanted me involved in his life so my son could know his father. And no, my brother did not adopt him. However my brother feels about it, I intend to be in my child's life, and she agrees that my relationship with my son is separate from the issue with my brother. Okay, so now we know a little bit more about what's going on here. The boy does want to meet whoever his father is, and the brother did not adopt him. Opie wants to do right by the kid, which is cool, and he really wants to be in his boy's life. And then he said he would do this however his brother feels about it. That statement made me a little bit iffy. But in any case, there's nothing we can draw from that, so how about we move on to the update to see what ended up happening. I've read all your comments in my last post. Meant a lot to have that support, and I decided to follow some of your advice. For starters, on not being present when Ali told my brother the truth. You're right, that's for them to talk between each other and not my business to be there when she broke the news. He went directly to my house after to ask me if it's true. Don't know everything she told him, but still said my part of how it all happened. Obviously, it was super overwhelming for him. I couldn't tell how much of it was confusion or just pissed off. My brother didn't even say anything when he left. Only thing he said was he needed time away. Ali said he wasn't at their place either. That same week, they called me to come over, and the three of us had a long talk. There was the chance to apologize for not telling him sooner before getting a paternity test. My brother asked me what my plans are now that I know I'm my son's father. If that means I'd like to be involved. I told him yes. Even if he doesn't know me, he's my son. And if he'd want that, I'd like to get to know him. Whatever time they are comfortable letting him spend time with me. We agreed to set something up between me and him. They were planning on telling him that night, and then they got back to me. Kid was curious about meeting me, so we did it that weekend. At the last minute, my brother opted out of being at the house when it happened. I'll be honest, it was super awkward. I tried hard not to go in with any expectations, but part of you wants it to go well, you know? It was crazy seeing him regardless. You know, part of me still didn't want to believe he's really my kid. He's extremely extroverted though, which was a nice surprise, but the complete opposite of me. I'm the nervous one, and he's over here asking me if I've already watched Fast and Furious 9 or what games do I like to play. Overall, it went well. The second meeting was much more comfortable. I took him out for a ride so we could hit the pier since he says that's where he loves to go. It was a really great time. With my son, we're slowly getting to be more comfortable. He never knew anything about his dad, so he asks me a lot of stuff whenever we hang out. Honestly, he's such a smart kid. The more I like him, the more it makes me sad we couldn't do this before. I've seen him several times already, getting along great so far, so I'm hopeful for what that'll mean in the future. As for things with my brother, well, it's still not so good. He's not around on days I come over or when I'm gonna pick up my son. We haven't talked much, but it's tense when we do. He's not mad at me. Doesn't blame me either because none of us ever had a clue about this connection. Still, it's a lot for all of us to get used to. My brother's still different with me, and he doesn't want to know about how my meetings go with my son. Things kind of took a not so good turn with them too. Don't know the full thing, only what he's told me, and I don't ask Allie. All I know is she's asked him for some time out of the house so they can have some space away. No idea if that means there's been fighting or what, but he says they're hitting a rough patch and he's not sure about where that's gonna go. I don't either, but it hasn't been that long since this all came out, so it'll be a while before things settle. It sucks and I wish it didn't have to happen. For now, I'm keeping my focus on my son and let them handle their personal business. So that's the update. OP is building some sort of a relationship with his son and he knows about him now and all is good in that front. But OP's brother took an emotional hit and that's definitely been impacting the marriage life. Now, I was able to dive into the comment section of the update and get a little bit more context on this whole situation, so before we move on to the next post, let's check out that context. Regarding how my brother has chosen to not be present when I pick up my son has always known he had a bio dad before my brother was in the picture, and when my brother and Allie were going to get married, they asked my son about adoption, but he wasn't interested. Regardless, this doesn't mean anything like my brother's been set aside, despite the fact that we effed up with communication in the beginning, something we don't want to repeat again. Even if my son doesn't call him dad, I know he still loves him, and I told my brother it doesn't have to change the relationship with him. We've had a few talks in regards to that, and we also spoke about therapy once, but he doesn't seem interested. Not marriage counseling, but just individual therapy for himself. It did a lot of help for me after I lost my dad, so I suggested it to him. Before moving forward with me meeting my son, we had a deeper talk about this to make sure this is something my brother is really okay with. Not just because Allie was okay with it, but that it was okay with him too. This was always an agreement between them, that they'd allow the son's biological father into his life at a slow pace if that ever became a possibility in the future. Obviously, this is a completely different case and not what they expected. He asked me if I wanted to be involved to make sure we were all on the same page. They had already had their own discussions before reaching out to me. What happened before was a huge mistake. I wish that we had done things differently instead of holding off on knowing the truth just before telling him. And that is it. That is all we know about this situation. Now, the comment section has taken sides. Some people are cool with OP meeting his son. Others are not so okay with it because, it destroyed the bond between the brother and the son. And there are some people with a conspiracy theory that Allie is hopeful for the brother to just leave and disappear so she can get with OP and have their tiny happy family there. So I'm curious as to know, what do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section, and now let's move on to the next post. This post is from the subreddit Today I Effed Up, and it's by user Guy Who Makes Bad Jokes. Today I effed up by choosing a stupid password for my bank account. Okay, this happened like a month ago. A local financial institution created an app for their bank, which is groundbreaking since our country is pretty backward technology-wise. So I opened an account on the app, and after a month I didn't like the services, so I wanted to close my account. The app said I had to head down there to take that kind of decision. Backward country, remember? So I went to their center. I explained everything to the gorgeous woman at the desk. I felt like Chandler in that episode of Friends. Then she asked for my password to finalize the operation. And then it hit me. The password that I had chosen was Big Dick 69, and I had to say it out loud in front of her. That was the longest minute of my life. I wish the earth would have opened up and swallowed me. Oh wow, OP, that sucks, but it is so funny. Thanks for sharing that with us, and hopefully you're gonna change the other weird passwords that you have going around. Cause I'm willing to bet this isn't the only one. Also, in case anybody's interested, the episode of Friends that OP refers to is the one where Chandler and Ross want to terminate their gym membership. And it's that time that we've reached the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed today's stories. I certainly did reading them to you. So if you did, then go ahead and give the video a like, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and become a member of our Discord community that just keeps growing, and it is fantastic. And like I said in the beginning of the video, all of the relevant links are in the video description below, so be sure to check them out. And finally, I'd like to thank you all for taking the time to watch this video. It really does mean a lot to me that you guys enjoy this content, so thank you once again. And having said all that, I will see you guys in the next video.